I know it is everyone's dream to study hard, get good grades, get a better paying job. Actually, that was my dream too. Anyone I used to see go to work, I was like, wow, these people are living their best life. So in this story, I'm going to share with you the trauma and mental health problems that my first job gave me. And I'm also going to share with you how I dealt with that and my advice to anyone who is seeking a job out there. So it was soon after completing my high school, I got hired by a company. Actually, it was a big company. That company dealt in a lot of things. They had a section for jewelry, a section for children's clothes. They sold different uniforms for different schools. They also had a section actually where for DSTV subscription. So I was so happy and excited. Remember, this was my first job ever. So I went there. They called me for an interview. I reached there to the interview. The boss was actually a lady. She was in her 50s. So when I reached there, I was so overwhelmed and scared. Remember, people always say interviews, they're going to be asked the things you don't know, something like that. So I went there, but I was excited. So when I reached there, I sat in the office. She told me, Precious, don't be tense because they're not going to ask you a lot of things. I was like, okay. Then she asked me one question. What was your favorite subject in high school? I just told her economics. She said, okay, that's amazing. I want you to write an essay about the effects of inflation in Zimbabwe. I was like, is this the interview? She said, yes. Then I got a paper. I wrote the essay. Actually, in about 10 minutes, I was done. I gave her back. She read it and said, wow, you are hired. Guys, I was so excited. I was like, this is now the dream come true. She said, you're hired. I was like, wow, thank you so much for hiring me. This has always been my dream. She said, you're welcome. Then I was expecting the next step. Maybe she was going to call someone to take me around through the shop and, make me familiar with every place and also tell me my role. But she just said, we have one rule in this company. You don't use your phone and we don't allow handbags. So if you come with your handbag and your phone, make sure you lock them in the locker. You get them when you're going home. I was like, maybe that's what all companies do. I just said, okay. I went in and locked my things. Then I started saying, you know what? I'm going to look around myself and become familiar with the place. As I was in the process of looking around, there came a group of many people. Actually, those were one of her biggest clients that entered the company. They came with their children. They were looking for school uniforms. So she was so happy. She welcomed them. Then from nowhere, she just said, Precious, I want you to rush upstairs, get me uniforms for this school, for this school, for this school, and the sizes. I was confused. I was like, boss, but I don't even know where to get these things. She said, upstairs, Precious, rush. Hey. To tell you the truth, guys, I was so confused. I went upstairs rushing. I didn't even know what I was doing. When I reached there, I looked in the storeroom. I saw hundreds of boxes of uniforms. I was like, where do I even start? Confusion hit me. And I was like, you know what? Precious, calm down. This is your first job. Calm down. So I told myself, you know what? I'm just going to sit down and calm my heart such that I see the next step. As I sat down, I heard a calling. Precious, what are you still doing upstairs? Calm down with what I asked you to do. Oh my God. I was so confusion was hitting me. I just said, you know what? If I stay here, there's no way I'm going to get even all this. I went downstairs trembling. Can you imagine? My first job also, just soon after being hired, this was happening. I went down trembling. She saw me with nothing. She said, Precious, where are the things I told you to bring? I told her, you know what? I couldn't find them. She said, nonsense. I can't even forget that word. That is nonsense. Imagine in front of all the customers. Then she turned back to the customer and says, you know what, my customers, I'm sorry for that inconvenience. This is just a new worker I just hired, so I even regret hiring her now. Can you imagine? And I was there. I was like, wow, is this what working is like? Then she called the other lady who was already there. She said, you know what, to go and take this, this, and this. So this lady went there and took the uniforms. Then she said, give the uniforms to Precious to fit the children. I took the kids. I fitted the first one. She came out. They were actually young kids. I fitted all of them. Then the last kid that I was fitting, she was a bit young. So she started crying in the fitting room. My boss called with a loud voice, Precious, what are you doing to that child? Oh my God. The only thing I managed to do was to finish fitting that child. I brought her out and I went to the toilet. I cried my heart out. I was like, is this what working is? Is this what working is? Getting a job is like? But I just told myself, you know what, maybe it's the first day, maybe that's how, things start. Because for me, my trauma didn't start after 2 weeks of working or 1 month. It started 20 minutes after being accepted at a job. So after work, I actually took my things and went home. It took me 2 hours to reach home. That was the distance from work to home. So when I reached home, my parents were worried because I reached around 8 p.m. They were worried because they thought I had just gone for an interview and I was going to come back early. I told them the good news. I got the job. I have never seen my parents so happy. They were so excited, saying, oh, congratulations. How can you get a job and start working? That is God's grace. But in my mind, I was like, oh my God, this job is going to give me trauma and it's going to affect my mental health. But I just consoled myself and said, you know what, it was the first day, better days are yet to come. So the next day I went to work. I thought things were going to get better days are ahead, as people always say. I went there and nothing changed. She continued shouting at me in front of the customers. Can you imagine? And every time she could shout and insult me, intimidate me, I could rush to the toilet. I cry my heart out. I was becoming bitter every day. You see, so this other lady who was working there, she knew when I went to the toilet I was going to cry. She followed me one day and said, you know what, Precious, you should know the attitude of our boss. That's how she is. You have to learn to cope. If she shouts at you, just ignore. So I said, you know what? Okay, but it was hard to tell you the truth. I coped. When she was shouting, I could just ignore her. I was like, you know what? I'm going to concentrate on my job. So I worked and worked and worked and everything was like that. So it reached a time where bitterness was actually hitting me because he had a rule that you have to come early at work. I used to come 5:30 a.m. in the morning. I was at work. We do the cleaning. After the cleaning, she had a time for prayer. So I could hear her pray every day in the morning. She's praying. I was like, how can someone, no one who knows God can treat another human being like this? That was making me so bitter every morning when I hear her pray. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on the job. So it continued like that. So I saw that it was now 2 weeks and she had mentioned nothing about my pay. I went home. I told my parents, you know what, Mama and Dad, my boss has never mentioned anything about pay. I thought maybe she was going to make me sign a contract or something like that. But she hasn't said anything. I told them I'm going to ask her. They said, no, Precious, don't be rushed. Leave here. If she doesn't mention it, just wait until month end. I knew that was a bad idea, but I just know what I said, you know what, I'm just going to continue. Since this is my first job, I don't have to be rushed. So I continued working. Now it was month end. I was so excited to get my first pay. I had even promised my mother, I'm going to give you back your money, because my mother had borrowed me $60. That was the money that was enough for me to go to and fro work for the whole month. So I promised her, I'm going to pay you back your money and I'm also going to buy you something. I was so excited. So on the day of month end, I went to work. Then soon after work, my boss told me, you know what, Precious, you should leave your phone number. Then I gave her, then I went home. Guys, I got the shock. I reached home. I saw a notification entering my phone of money entering my EcoCash. In Zimbabwe, we use EcoCash when someone wires money in your phone. In other countries, they call it, maybe in Uganda, they call it Airtel. In other countries, I don't know what they call it, but in Zimbabwe, it's EcoCash. I looked at the amount. I almost fainted. I started reflecting all the trauma, all the mental health, the bitterness I had to go through the whole month, expecting something good at the end of the month, and what she gave me. The money she sent me was not even enough to pay my mother her $60. I was so shocked and traumatized. I showed my mother the money. She felt sorry for me. She was like, Precious, don't pay me back the money for transport. Use to buy yourself things. To tell you the truth, that man, I only bought some lotions, a few things. That day, even the next day, I couldn't gather the energy to go to work. I remember she called me around 11 a.m. saying, Precious, where are you? Why are you late at work? The only thing I could tell her was, I quit. She said, what? I said, I'm not coming back. You never see me again. I quitted just like that. thank God, after quitting, just after a few weeks, I got accepted to go study further abroad, actually to advance my studies. I went abroad and started studying there. But in my heart, I was like, after a few years, I have to go back to this woman. I need to tell her that what she did was wrong. How she traumatized me, and she should never do to another person again. So I went to study abroad. Actually, after like 2 years, when I visited home, I said I'm going to go because I was not looking great. When you go abroad, there's a way you change. I said, you know what, I'm going to visit my boss. I'm going to talk to her nicely and tell her what she made me went through. Maybe she didn't realize. So when I reached there, I reached and said, hi, how are you? She said, wow, Precious, welcome. We started talking. Just after like few minutes of talking, she started saying, Precious, you know what? Can you quickly rush downtown, go buy me this, this, and this? I was like, no, this lady hasn't changed. How can she see someone for 2 years and wants to send her to do things for her work? I was like, the only thing I could tell her was, you know what, Miss, I can't mention her name. You know what? I'm just here. I just said, let me come to say hi. There's a car waiting for me outside. I'm about to go. I was lying. There was no car waiting for me. But I said, this lady will not change. I'm just going to leave. So I left and went away. Till now, I haven't told her. There are people in life that when you let them go, just let them go. They will never change, to tell you the truth. So that's how I left that traumatic job. So guys, what is my advice to you? Anyone who is a first-time job seeker, anyone who is looking for a job, or someone who is already working and who is in the same situation as mine, this is my advice to you. If you are a first-time job seeker, when you get a job, make sure in your first week, you don't work until you sign the contract of employment. It's better to know what you're getting at the end of the month. If you agree with it, such that you don't be disappointed. So don't be shy to say, I will not ask. My dear, you reach month and you see what you have done and what you have gotten, you actually be disappointed. My second advice is, for whatever reason, never stay at a toxic work environment just in the name of the job. I'm telling you, never. For me, I left, but it was too late. That job traumatized me. It messed my mental health. I became so bitter that till now, whenever I think of getting a job, I start thinking of the trauma I went through, and I don't want to experience that again. So for whatever reason, never stay at a toxic environment like what I did. Leave early, don't leave late. I know there are others who can handle, but for me, it didn't work. And also, maybe you are already working at that environment already. You're at a job and it's toxic. Everyone there is toxic. My dear, find a way to live. There is always a right job for you out there. There's always a right job for you out there. Even if you're at a toxic environment, start applying for other jobs without them knowing. Apply. When you get a new job, live there. It's good to value your mental health. That's the truth. Nothing is more valuable than your mental health, like health itself. Because if you are traumatized every day, your mental health are having problems, it's you who will suffer. And also my advice, just pray for a good job. God always answers prayers. I advise you, pray for a good job before even getting one. Pray for good work, colleagues at work. Pray for a good boss. Such that when you get a job we are enjoying, don't stay in an environment that is going to traumatize you like what I did. For me, I left after a month, but it had messed up my mind. So for you, my advice is, if you're already in a toxic environment, apply for another job. When you get it, leave that environment. It's not good for you. So thank you so much, guys, for watching my story. I hope my first job experience opened someone's eyes. If you have a friend who you know is in the same situation, make sure you forward them this video. Maybe they'll be helped. So guys, until next time, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up, put in the comment section a comment, anything you want to comment. Until next time, I love you. Mwah.